Hello, and welcome back to Module 2 Microlectures, Programming in C#. In this microlecture, we're going to discuss declaring and initializing variables. All right, so what is the declaration of a variable? What does that mean to declare a variable? Well, declaring a variable literally means I'm creating it. I want to create the variable. Now, we've spoken in the past in other microlectures about what a variable is, but let's go a little deeper. All right, let's talk about it again. So what is a variable? Well, a variable is basically just a space in memory. That's it, right? Now that memory can be your random access memory, right? Your volatile memory that is the fastest buffer we have at this moment in time, or your virtual memory. Virtual memory is not random access memory, and your virtual memory is normally what is used from your hard drive to back up your random access memory in the event that it runs over. So your computer doesn't go into a catatonic shock when it runs out of space to store its values at. Now, why is declaring a variable important? Well, we need to store values that we want to use later. And those values can be used in our equations as we write our algorithms within our program to have specific outcomes that we're looking for. Normally, that's what we call business logic, but it can be more than that. Either way, based on what our definition is, declaring a variable is the act of allocating memory space where the assigned value will be stored. Remember what I said. Variables are not going to hold the value. Variables are assigned the value because the variable is more or less like a box. And if you declare a variable, you're basically declaring empty space. You're saying that's the box I want to use to house strings. Now, what's important about that is if you declare a variable that is empty, you're essentially declaring that space unusable by anything else, though it has nothing in it. That's very important to denote because it is not best practice to just declare a variable, as you see down at the bottom here. This is how you can declare a variable. My apologies. Type, data type, variable name. But in the end, if you can assign it a value, you should. Now, there are situations where you can't just assign the variable a value at the point of initialization. Because of that, there are situations where you will need to declare the variable and then run a for loop or something along those lines to fill it with stuff or to format it or whatever the case may be. But for the most part, for most of the situations where you're going to declare a variable, you might as well just initialize it. So things to remember when declaring. While it's important to understand how to declare a variable, please note that it is not best practice to declare a variable and not assign a value when it is declared. That's very important. And we talked about this. It presents a situation where the program is holding an empty or null memory location, and that can cause unwanted outcomes such as memory leaks, misallocation of memory at the processor level, yada, yada, yada. So what's the alternative to declaring a variable? Well, if you have to declare a variable, that's totally fine. Do what you have to do. But if you don't, then you should initialize it. And this is the best practice for creating a variable. You don't allocate memory space if you don't have the value to put into it. Also, don't allocate more memory space if you can reuse the memory space you already have. Now, because we're starting off in C# here, I'm more than likely going to see you initializing variables like mad. But in the end, you don't necessarily have to do that. You can use the same variable again. Variables can be overwritten. They're not all variables are immutable. We're going to talk about immutability of data types, but in this case, variables that are not constants are not immutable, which means you can use them again. I encourage you to use it again if you can. They're not one-use things, right? Hang the towel back up if you want to use the towel again. All right? That's kind of what happens at cruises and hotels, and the same thing is true here. Reuse the variable because it means we're being more efficient and judicious with the space that we are allocated. Some of you might be saying, well, in today's day and age, most computers have almost terabytes of random access memory. That's very true. But it doesn't have that? These guys, your smartphones, tablets, Roku devices. There are so many other devices that you may write apps for that don't have the same memory space as, let's say, your laptop or your desktop for that matter. And I know you're probably thinking my desktop doesn't have that much memory and neither does my laptop. I wish I had more. And that's totally fine. I am speaking specifically about the potential to have that much memory if you don't have it. So this means you are declaring the variable and assigning the value at the same time. This ensures the program does not hoard empty memory slots. To initialize a variable, just use the equal sign. So let's talk about that for a second. One equal sign means assignment. Two equal signs means equality. I will say that again. One equal sign means assignment. Two equal signs means equality. All right. And we'll talk about that when we get back into the code. But before we get there, I want to speak about a few more things. So if I want to display values in the console, it's very important, all right, that I use the right methods. Now, you could write your own method to do this, and that would be very cumbersome because it takes a lot of code to do. Or you can use the method that's already built into the system library that's available in all consoles without you even having to pull it from NuGet, and that's console.write and console.writeLine. Now, what's the difference between the two? Well, console.write just writes the string. Console.writeLine writes the string and then puts a new line character at the end so that the next time console writes, it'll write to the next line. There's another thing you need to know about console.write and console.writeLine. Console.writeLine gives you the ability to format your string before it is printed, all right? And the way to do that is in your console.writeLine, you use curly braces with a number, and that number is a yield, all right, from the array that sits inside the method. Now, we're not going to go too deep into what that means, but I'm going to show it to you so it makes more sense, hopefully. And what we normally do when we do this, you can also use string.format as well, but you're actually using what's called string interpolation to take places in the string and jamming values into it when that line runs. So what would that look like? Well, let's go do some modifications to the code that we've already written once. Aha, here we are. We have my constants here. Let's delete these constants. I don't really need them. All right. And let's do something cheeky here. What I want to do is I want to, first of all, show you what a declaration looks like. So if I wanted to declare a string, for instance, I would say string, declare string, and that's it. Now, this is totally fine. You can totally do this. It is not against the rules, but it is not best practice. What that essentially does is it declares a empty memory location that is named declare string. I didn't do anything special here. All I said was just create a specific place in the memory that houses this information. This is not the way to go. If you want to declare a variable, you should just do what I did here. So if I had that again, so we say string, declare string equals declared string. Boom, there you go. We're good. All right. Now this right here is what's called a initialization. We're initializing the variable declare string as the data type string, and we're assigning using one equal sign declare string as the string literal to that variable. If I printed this, right? If I printed this, so let's go ahead and try, if I can do the right thing here. If I printed this and said, you know what, console.write, and I said declare string, what'll happen? I'm going to go ahead and comment these out because I don't want them to run. Now let's run it. Now I haven't really done anything with REPL today, so I don't know if it's going to take 5 years or if it's going to take 5 seconds. But what it should print is it should print declared string. Now what's interesting is because I'm using console.write, it will not give me a new line. Okay, you see it says declared string there at the bottom. Boom, it did what it was supposed to do. That's fantastic. Right here, declared string. Okay, but what if I wanted to use console.writeLine and I wanted to concatenate a string? Well, we did this down here, right? We concatenated my name, and we did this in the first module. We concatenated my name using the concatenate method, and we saved it to the variable full name, and then full name was then printed in the console.writeLine. So let's see if this still works. It should print my name. It should say hello world exclamation point. Francis Fiske is here. Now, when it prints that, we know this still works the way it's supposed to. But there's a couple of things I can do here. I don't have to use plus signs to concatenate my string. I can still do it. I don't have to do it. There's a much easier way. I can actually do this. I can say, I can do this. It's not letting me. Why not? 1 second. Find out what's going on here that I'm doing wrong. Yeah, I did that right. I did that right. Hopefully that does the things. It's not making the numbers for me, and I'm wondering if REPL is the problem. But what I should be able to do is say full name on the outside here with this comma. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. Maybe it's, oh, it did work. I don't need this right here. All right, cool. It didn't change colors, so it looked weird to me. But either way, what I'm doing here is I'm saying, hey, listen, this variable here, I want you to be in between these curly braces, and look what it did there. It put my name there. I'm gonna do it again so you can see it in all its glory. Now, if I wanted to print another variable into this console.writeLine, it's quite simple, actually. What do you think I need to do? I can wait. Well, the number 0 denotes the 0th position in the array that we're printing into this method, right? So this yield on the right. So basically, I could say 1. And I can use another variable. In this case, I'll use the same variable just to show proof of concept, right? Waiting. It'll pop up eventually. But it should print my name twice in 2 different places in the string. And I can keep doing this over and over again. I can say curly brace 2, and then add another variable to the end of this with a comma, and boom, it will actually format the string for me. No fuss, no muss. You see what it did at the bottom here? Did exactly what I wanted it to do. This is one of the nice things about string interpolation that I like. And please understand that string interpolation is more powerful than this. It's been expanded. So, like I said, you can also use what's called string.format. So let's do that here. I will prove string.format. String.format. And what string.format does is it returns a string. So instead of printing, as we did in the last one, right, we printed to the console, all I want to do is return a string. So string, the primitive value string, dot format, and I can say 0, 1, and this should still print. And just to give you some context, I can put some dots at the end here so you see that it changed. So what's going to happen? Well, the method concatenate is going to fire, right? It's going to execute. It's going to take my first name and place it into the string variable first name. It's going to take my last name and put it into my string variable last name. And then it's going to turn around and it's going to add those together or concatenate those 2 strings into one singular string using string.format. There's one more way I can do this. String interpolation works in 3 different ways. I can use console.writeLine to write it to the actual console. I can use string.format to format it as a string, or I can forego this entire episode, this entire issue, and basically do this. This is kind of why I was a little confused, because it looked weird that it wasn't updating. This is the modern form of string interpolation, where we use the $sign instead of string.format, and then we take the variable, and instead of putting it at the end of the method and then the method doing the work, all we do is we put the actual variable between parentheses, or I'm sorry, curly braces, and it does the work. So in this case, I can run that, and it should give me the same outcome without the dots. There you go. And that's it for this video. I would say that it's been a lot of fun. There's more to follow. So as I say in all of my videos, good luck, have fun, ciao.